Welcome, movie enthusiasts, to our journey into the fantastical world of The Mask. Released in 1994, this iconic film starring Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz took audiences on a wild ride filled with comedy, action, and a dash of magic. Today, let's unmask the secrets behind the making of this beloved movie. Narrator: at the heart of The Mask lies a magical artifact. A green mask with mysterious powers that transform the wearer into a zany, cartoon-like character with superhuman abilities. But how did this magical concept come to life on the silver screen? The challenge with The Mask was bringing this larger-than-life character to the screen, while staying true to the spirit of the original comic book. We wanted to create a visual spectacle that would captivate audiences and showcase Jim Carrey's incredible talent. Playing Stanley Ipkiss was a blast, but putting on that mask was like stepping into a whole new world. It gave me the freedom to unleash my imagination and embrace the cartoonish antics of The Mask. From the vibrant visual effects to the dynamic performances, The Mask was a groundbreaking blend of live action and animation that pushed the boundaries of filmmaking in the 90s. But perhaps the film's enduring legacy lies in its timeless themes of self-discovery and embracing one's true identity. As Stanley learns throughout the movie, true power comes from within, not from wearing a magical mask. It's a message that resonates with audiences of all ages and continues to inspire to this day. So, whether you're a longtime fan or discovering The Mask for the first time, let its charm and humor remind you of the magic that lies within each of us. Thanks for joining us on this nostalgic journey into the world of The Mask. Timid bank clerk, Stanley Ipkiss, Jim Carrey. Unfortunately, he's too gentle and is unable to handle confrontations. After one of the worst days, he finds a mask that depicts Loki, the Norse god of mischief. When he puts it on, he becomes his inner self, a cartoon wild man. After Ipkiss's alter ego indirectly kills the friend of small-time crime boss Dorian Tyrell Peter Green, he wants the green-faced goon destroyed. Bank clerk Stanley Ipkiss, Jim Carrey, comes into possession of a mysterious mask that transforms him into his inner personality. Soon, the bumbling clerk becomes an unconventional superhero in search of justice and a good time too. Stanley Ipkiss, Jim Carrey, is a young shy man who works in a bank. One day, he discovers a mask by the sea, which according to an archaeologist pictures the Norse god of tricks and deception, Loki. When Stanley puts on the mask, he transforms into an uncontrolled reflection of himself that does crazy things and amazes the people. This new superhero, The Mask, falls in love with a singer, Tina Carlisle Cameron Diaz, while he decides to eliminate every gangster in the city. Stanley Ipkiss, Jim Carrey, a clerk in an Edge City bank, is a shy, luckless romantic who is regularly bullied by nearly everyone around him, including his boss, Eamon Roach, his landlady Mrs. Peenman Nancy Fish, and car mechanics. His only friends are his fox terrier Milo and his co-worker Charlie Richard Jenny. Meanwhile, gangster Dorian Tyrell Peter Green runs the exclusive Coco Bongo nightclub. While plotting to overthrow his boss Nico Orestes Matessina, Tyrell sends his singer girlfriend Tina Carlisle Cameron Diaz into Stanley's bank with a hidden camera, in preparation to rob the bank. Stanley is smitten with Tina, and she seems to reciprocate. Later that night, after being denied entrance to the Coco Bongo, he is stranded with a broken-down loaner car at the city's filthy harbor, where he finds a mysterious wooden mask next to a pile of garbage which at first he mistakes to be a drowning man. He takes the object home and jokingly puts it on. The mask wraps around his head, transforming him into a wackily suited, green-headed figure, The Mask, a trickster with reality-bending powers, physical imperviousness, and without personal inhibitions, who exacts comical revenge on some of Stanley's tormentors and scares a street gang that attempts to mug him. The next morning, Stanley encounters world-weary Edge City detective Lieutenant Kellaway Peter Riegert and newspaper reporter Peggy Brandt Amy Yasbeck, both of whom are investigating the mask's activities of the previous night. Despite these threats, the temptation to again use the mask is overwhelming and he puts it back on that evening, needing money to attend Tina's performance at the Coco Bongo. The mask noisily interrupts Tyrell's bank robbery and steals the targeted money while Tyrell's henchmen frees Reggie. Kathy is shot by police responding to the disturbance. The mask buys entry into the Coco Bongo, where he rocks the joint by dancing exuberantly with Tina in front of the cheering crowd after Tyrell is called away by Sweet Eddie Dennis Forrest. After Freeze dies in Tyrell's arms, Tyrell violently asks who was responsible and Eddie points to the mask dancing with Tina. At the end of the dance, the mask gives Tina a kiss that literally blows her shoes off. He is then confronted by Tyrell, who pulls out a gun and shoots off a part of the mask's tie, which transforms back into Stanley's distinctive pajamas. The mask escapes, while Tyrell is temporarily arrested for the bank robbery by Elt. Kellaway, who also finds the pajama scrap, who is also informed by a policeman that they found Freeze's dead body. Kellaway confronts Stanley at his apartment, just after a weary Stanley discovers all the bank money stuffed in his closet. Stanley later consults an expert on masks named Arthur Newman Ben Stein, who tells him that the object is likely a depiction of Loki, the Norse god of darkness and mischief. Despite this, and with both Tyrell and Elt Kellaway hunting for him, a more confident Stanley stands up to his boss and arranges for Tina to meet the mask at the local landfill park. The meeting goes badly when the mask's advances scare Tina away and Elt Kellaway arrives and attempts to arrest him. The mask toys with the enraged officer before zooming out of the park and tricking a large group of Edge City police officers into joining him in a mass performance production of the song Cuban Pete. Stanley manages to get the mask off and Peggy helps him escape, but then betrays him to Tyrell for a $50,000 mob bounty. Tyrell tries on the mask and becomes a demonic monster demanding to know from Stanley where the money he took is. Stanley is then shown in one of the mob cars as Tyrell's henchmen search Stanley's apartment and reclaim the money. Stanley is later literally dumped in Kellaway's lap with a green rubber mask and is thrown into jail. Tina sympathetically visits Stanley in his cell, where he urges her to flee the city. She attempts to do so, but is pursued by Orlando Nils Alan Stewart and cornered by Tyrell. Upon being told by Orlando of her attempt to leave the city, Tina is forcefully taken to his raid of a charity ball at the Coco Bongo, which is hosted by Nico and attended by the city's elite, including the city's mayor Mitchell Tilton Ivory Ocean. Upon arrival, the masked Tyrell kills Nico in a gunfight and prepares to destroy both the club and Tina. Meanwhile, Milo helps Stanley break out of his cell, and they go to the club to stop Tyrell, eventually dragging Elt Kellaway along with him. Upon arrival, Stanley tells Elt Kellaway to call for backup as he sneaks into the Coco Bongo with a gun of his own. After a brief initial success with the assistance of Charlie, Stanley is spotted by Orlando and captured before Stanley can do anything. Tina tricks Tyrell into taking off the mask, which is recovered by Milo, turning the dog into a cartoonish pit bull who defeats Tyrell's men, while Stanley fights Dorian himself. Stanley then recovers the mask and wears it one last time, using its abilities to save Tina by swallowing Tyrell's bomb, and then flushing Tyrell down the drain of the club's ornamental fountain. The police arrive and arrest Tyrell's remaining henchmen. Mayor Mitchell Tilton witnesses most of this and deduces that Tyrell was the mask from the start and orders Elt Kellaway to release Stanley. After Stanley, Tina, Charlie, and Milo leave, Mayor Mitchell Tilton tells Elt Kellaway that he would like to have a word with him. As the sun rises, Stanley, Tina, Milo, and Charlie take the mask back down to the harbor, where Tina and Stanley throw it back into the water and share their first kiss. Charlie attempts to retrieve the mask for himself, only to find Milo swimming away with it. The Mask was the movie that introduced my family to Jim Carrey, and we all thought that it was great. Carrey plays unlucky bank clerk Stanley Ipkiss, who one night finds an ancient mask. When he puts it on, he turns into sort of a cartoon character. Think Roger Rabbit on acid. The really great thing about the movie is that they just turn Carrey loose. Anything that you can imagine him doing, he does here. A particularly funny scene is when the police tell him to freeze. You'd better believe that he freezes. All in all, Jim Carrey's humor will never get old. He may have given his all-time funniest performance in The Mask. So, whether you're a longtime fan or discovering The Mask for the first time, let its charm and humor remind you of the magic that lies within each of us. Thanks for joining us on this nostalgic journey into the world of The Mask. Until next time, stay curious, stay entertained, and keep unmasking the magic of cinema.